whatever changes you make right now, you have to picture yourself doing the rest of your life. Yeah. So it's like, people are like, what kind of diet do you put people on? Or like, what's this? It's like, it's not, I don't even like the term diet necessarily because it does seem restrictive. It's so stereotypical, but it's a lifestyle change. So it's like, how can I be there for you as you make this lifestyle change? And yeah, it can seem like a mountain, but if you do those little bite-sized changes, it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And it's good to have a professional or a partner to be on your journey with you that knows what they're talking about.
What's going on, everybody? Kyle Powers here, Haven Real Estate Group at eXp Realty, here with another episode of Local Legends of the Flint Hills, where business meets community. I've got a very special guest here with me, Chen with Manhattan Nutrition Clinic. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Jordan, I think let's just kind of roll into it. So you off camera, you told me you've been a dietitian for about 8 years now.
Yes.
What inspired you to really kind of, go down that path and then start Manhattan Nutrition Clinic?
Yeah, so the reason I went and became a dietitian is because I originally was interested in working in the healthcare field. I was thinking about becoming a physician. I was in pre-med, but my sophomore year, I became very interested in nutrition. And then I started Googling around to what's something that combines both, and a dietitian is the perfect fit. So I switched my major, and yeah, I've been a dietitian now for 8 years. And to become a dietitian, by the way, it takes 4 years undergrad, 2 years master's now, and a 1 year unpaid internship, and you have to pass board. So it requires a lot to become one.
Yeah, no, and that's fantastic. I mean, I think that's one of the things that we as a society that we don't necessarily have a lot of knowledge behind too, and I think that having someone like you is fantastic to be here. So
yes.
All right. So let's talk to me about Manhattan Nutrition Clinic. Right? You said you've been running this now for a little over 3 years. What inspired you to kind of come out on your own and start this?
Yeah, so originally when I became a dietitian, I always pictured myself working in a hospital setting. I thought I'd be doing tube feedings and things like that. I did work in a hospital setting for 5 years, but in the meantime, I also was working in an outpatient setting here in Manhattan as well, in a cardiology primary care office. And that is kind of what segued into my private practice, because I realized, hey, I'm making a huge difference in these people's lives, and I get to see them on their journey. And in the hospital, it's like a Band-Aid. You see them for a little bit, or they don't even want to see you because they're just feeling so cruddy. So that position kind of segued into my private practice. I taught myself how to do the billing and insurance side of things and went down that route. And where I worked at, they let me kind of branch off and just rent from them. So it was just very rewarding to be able to see people reach their health goals and be a part of that journey.
Here at Manhattan Nutrition Clinic, you have a wide range of services that you offer for your clientele. How do you decide, or how do you work for each one to tailor each one to meet the unique needs of your patients?
Yeah, so we have that initial assessment where we get to know the patient, we get to know their background, their cooking ability, financial ability, and just we meet the patient where they're at. And obviously everyone comes in with a wide range of medical issues. So we take that information and work with the patient on setting very specific goals, or giving them even basic education, or just everyone is very different. So we meet them where they're at, so we can make a plan that's very personalized. Some people may need weekly check-ins. Some people may just need that one information, and we'll do checkups once every few months. I would say the most of the time we meet people closer in the beginning because they're starting that journey, and then as they get more in a maintenance phase, we see them maybe once a month or so. But everybody is different, and we kind of just take all that that information in the consult and kind of put a plan in place. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, and I think, for each one, we talked a little bit too, that you guys focus, or you can focus on weight loss, and you focus on some of those things. So I think being able to meet the needs for each particular client and tailoring it towards each of those, I think that's kind of the big one. So within your stuff that you guys have, talk to us about the importance of the metabolic testing and that system that you guys use.
Yeah, so not everyone necessarily would be appropriate for metabolic testing, but some people may come in and they're like, I've tried everything, I can't lose weight, like what's going on? And so it can be helpful to do that test where it measures your CO2 output and like how much calories you burn at rest. And if they have like a statistically slower metabolism, that might answer some of their questions. So we might try to think of ways to boost their metabolism or adjust their calorie goal or something to better meet that. And then body composition assessment, we do that as well for a lot of my weight loss clients, and it's not always like the end all be all, but it's good information for them to have. So that just shows, oh, hey, you didn't like lose weight this week, but you gained some muscle and like lost body fat. That's really huge. So it's good to have other data points. People really like the data points that they get from these printouts and information.
Yeah. So you're saying it's not just what's on the scale?
Exactly.
There's a lot more to it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. A lot of non-scale victories too. I mean, other things I like to go over include like, how are your energy levels? How's your mood? Like GI issues, or their gut issues may be resolved. So there's a lot of benefits. It's not just the number on the scale. We go over like a lot of other benefits that happen from these diet changes.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's interesting that I'm in a meeting with you this week because I'm diving very deep into like what we put in our body allows what our body puts out. And I think that's one of the things that, again, we're losing in the societies today is that just eating crap is not necessarily going to be good for you. So
yeah.
You're like, yeah, I know. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. And one of the big things that people really appreciate working with myself or another dietitian is saying that no foods are off limits. I mean, there might be some exceptions for that, but generally no foods are off limits because I call it the red button theory, where the more you say something's off limits, the more you may have this restrict binge cycle. Yeah. So a lot of people are like, oh, like I really can eat anything and still reach my goals. But on the flip side, if you're going to be only having like fast food or sweets and stuff like that all the time, you're going to feel like crud. So you have to find that balance, and we help people with that journey. With
kind of the rise with COVID and all that kind of stuff, with the rise of telehealth and Zoom calls and all that stuff kind of becoming the norm, how have you integrated that into your practice and been able to help your clients?
Yeah, so around COVID was when there was a lot of restrictions that were lifted for telehealth, which honestly helped my practice grow into my private practice. Like that really helped a lot because there was a lot of liberalization. But it helps because people have coverage and they can meet me via telehealth. But I will say that only about 10% of my clients are telehealth. Sure. It's helpful because, if they're at work, they don't have to leave, they don't have to deal with parking, or maybe some people that live other places in the state, like they want to meet with myself, I was thinking like myself or my other dietitian, sorry. Yeah. But they want to meet with one of my dietitians, so then it's easier for them to make an appointment, or they maybe come in person once, and then they follow up with telehealth appointments. We're really flexible. But it's helpful because it just allows that flexibility. I will say from a personal standpoint, there's a lot, I feel like I get out almost more from in-person because sometimes if there's technology issues or if there's like printouts, it can be a little bit more personal for in-person. And that's why I invested a lot of money in an in-person space, but it's just good to have options for people because some people do like telehealth and they can't leave work or something like that.
Sure. I've said that for years. I mean, being able to sit down and look at the whites of someone's eyes is telehealth is great, or the Zoom calls are great, but I think being able to sit down with somebody is very different. So yes. I love that. Jordan, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit for us and talk to us about the client experience, right? The patient experience. So from your client's initial meeting to long-term follow-up, long-term care, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so when someone reaches out, we send them new patient paperwork where they fill out pretty much everything that they want to touch on, like their nutrition history, like medical history, medications, and we go over that in their initial assessment. It's a lot of information gathering and rapport building because I like to think of working with a dietitian almost as if seeing like a therapist, but for what you eat. That's the way I explain it a lot of times. But then when we work together in that initial one, I kind of gauge like how much education they need versus more like almost like motivational interviewing or just that like accountability and support, like if they need recipes. It just really depends on what they're coming in. So we spend time like looking at their lab work, medications, body composition assessment, like what their goals are. And I take like what their intake looks like, what they eat normally. And then it might be like, okay, after I give you this information, I usually work with the client, like, what do you think out of this information? Where do you think that the gaps are? What do you think that you need to do? And then they kind of like, okay, I think that like we can adjust this or make these baby steps. And that's where we go. I'm like, okay, like I maybe set like a couple of goals, like 2-3 goals, and then set like follow up within a week or two. Or if they're like wanting further follow up, like if they want to push it out like a month, I can do that. I don't like to push it out more than a month, typically in the very beginning. And then when they come back in, it's like, okay, here's your goals. Like how did it go? And if they're like, okay, it was a struggle, I couldn't do it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe it was too challenging. Let's adjust this. Or they'd be like, it was too easy. So it's very adjustable. We can make a change, but we like to measure their success. Like we might do that body composition assessment, weigh in, we might check their blood sugars or like review their lab work with their doctor. But yeah, that's kind of where we start out at when they reach out, and then we follow up periodically just to make sure they're reaching their goals, and we can always change it if needed.
Yeah. Well, and I think so much of it too is just pure education, right? Like we have to understand, again, back to what we're putting into our bodies too, and then just educating like what's healthy, what isn't, and things there. So and I think you touched on it a little bit right there, but how do you ensure that the goals, the whatever you get for your patients, how do you ensure that it is maintainable for them?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the ways we measure, I guess in our office would be like using like numbers, the weigh-ins, the body composition, any lab values. But there's also the, I guess, non-numbers piece or those non-scale victories like we talked about. Like, how do you feel physically? Like, how's your energy? So we look at those, like all different measurements. Oh, and then waist and hip measurements too. Sure. And if we're not seeing like the progress that we wanted, it's like, okay, there needs to be a tweak. Like what can we change here and what's sustainable? So like, let's say if you're going from, let's say, a sedentary life where you're sitting all day, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna run a marathon like within this month. Like that's not realistic. Or if you're like, if you're wanting to lose 50 pounds in a month, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna eat like 200 calories a day. I'm not like that's not healthy, and I would not recommend that. So we try to be like, okay, where should we change your goals? Like, what should we adjust? I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
No, it does. It does. I mean, you're making it to where it's small bites, small chunks, yes. Small, no pun intended, right?
Yes.
But yeah, small chunks that are achievable chunks too, right? And I think that's a big thing. Everyone has these big goals, and they try to take it all off in one shot.
Yes.
Versus just doing those small wins every day.
Yes.
So.
And to add on to that, like one thing I really hone in on is whatever changes you make right now, you have to picture yourself doing the rest of your life. Yeah. So it people are like, what kind of diet do you put people on? Or like, what's this? It's like, it's not, I don't even like the term diet necessarily because it does seem restrictive. It's so stereotypical, but it's a lifestyle change. So it's like, how can I be there for you as you make this lifestyle change? And yeah, it can seem like a mountain, but if you do those little bite-size changes, it doesn't seem so overwhelming. And it's good to have like a professional or a partner to be on your journey with you that knows what they're talking about.
Sure. Jordan, we talked off camera, and you've been in the community for quite some time. As a locally owned clinic, how do you help stay engaged in the community and then help promote health and wellness?
Yeah, so previously I was involved in the Nutrition Education Community Action Team for the Food and Farm Council, and I helped a lot with our Power of Produce, where you help kids eat fruits and vegetables. I still am involved like every other month giving nutrition talks at the senior center. I also help physician assistant students. I usually take on an intern like once a semester, like they come in and shadow, and I've also guest lectured there. I also help with the dietetic program if they have interns. I frequently have students shadow here. But I try to just be available to give talks where needed, because I think a lot of people appreciate that resource in the community.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are some of the things that come to the top of my mind.
Sure. So, and I think that's big, right? Again, back to that education piece of educating people of the public of how to eat healthy and what that looks like. So, I do want to shift gears a little bit, because this is kind of one of my favorite ones, especially in your field. I would imagine you probably, like what you said, I mean, you have a ton of them, but what has been one like crazy good success story that you're like, oh my gosh, this one completely changed this person's life?
Yeah. And you're making me think, because there are so many. So I was like, I'm trying to just think of one that sticks out at the top of my head, because there truly are so many. But one of the ones that impressed me a lot was like maybe 3 years ago, someone who was on the brink of dialysis was reaching out, and they had diabetes, and they were just like, I mean, they were very heavy set as well, and they were like wanting to make a change in their diet. And after meeting with them consistently, and they put in the work,
Sure.
I mean, now you wouldn't even recognize them. They like lost half their body weight. They are off all their meds. Like their kidney function improved so much. Like they don't need, they are not even like I don't even know how to say it. But like they're nowhere near being dialysis, because they are off all their meds now. So, and their A1C is like below 6. So it's just amazing when you see those kinds of stories of helping people like reach their health goals and get off meds and feel so much better, because that's the goal. And because our healthcare system has so many things broken about it, and it's just so good when you see how much nutrition plays a part.
Yeah.
And I want things to start turning that way, like being more towards preventative, and how you don't have like managing things with nutrition.
Yeah. No, I would agree, and I think you said too that that maybe that patient or maybe a different one, but they're no longer diabetes patient, no longer using insulin, and no longer having those kinds of things, and having that right. And I think again, it comes back to what we're fueling our body with. You know, if you're going to fuel your body with, again, crap versus jet fuel, like there's a big difference, right? Like I think it's the important piece of all of this that we have. So
yes,
as America really starts to understand what your diet can actually do to your body, to how energized you feel, how well you sleep, and how just everything, right? What fuel you put into your body, that we start to understand as Americans how that affects us, right? How do you and your clinic, how do you stay in one, in front of people and help educate them, and then two, to make sure that you are still giving them the most up-to-date and correct information and being able to help them best?
Yeah, so I try to stay up to date. As a dietitians, we're licensed professionals. We have to have our continuing education. I mean, we're very ethics, like science-based profession. We have to look at like all the upcoming research. And we try to get information out there. I would say, I guess I'm pretty active on social media and my practices. We try to have resources and reputable information out there. And especially in the community, it's just getting the word out, like that we are a reputable science-based resource, and we're just here to help people and make partnerships and relationships with like physicians and other healthcare providers, because we just want people to have the information they need to make healthier choices. Like, we're not trying to push propaganda. We truly just want to help people.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's where a lot of, just being in the health and the medical field in general, I think everybody starts out wanting to help people, right? Mm-hmm. It's just how far you're able to take that and what that looks like, or time, right? Like we talked about that, having the time to do that. So, okay, I love it. I love this, and I want to make sure we have time to get you kind of some information at the end here. But before we kind of wrap up, is there anything additional that you would like to add to this video, or anything else on that side of it? And then I've got a couple more questions after that.
I would just say that if anyone wanted to reach out, you can follow us on social media, kind of see what we're about. MHK Nutrition Clinic. You can follow us on Instagram or our Facebook page. We put out lots of free information, free resources. We're trying to maybe do more group support as well at our practice. So I just hope that we can continue to help support people reach their health goals and be a reputable place for people to come.
Yeah. So, and actually, that was one of the questions I was going to ask. So, somebody watching this video, how do they get a hold of you? Do they call? Do they walk in? Do they go go online and set a scheduled appointment, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so a lot of people, they reach out. You can call or text us at 785-560-2566. You can also book online on our website, manhattannutritionclinic.com, or some people even reach out in our DMs on our social media. So any way works.
Okay, love it. All right, so 2 more questions. I'll get out of your hair here. What does the future for Manhattan Nutrition Clinic look like?
That's a good question. So this was a big step. So I'm pretty much just, for my course, just continuing to grow. I mean, originally when I started this, I'm very excited that it even grew to a group practice. So I'm going to continue and hopefully grow other dietitians, and we can provide, it's called medical nutrition therapy is what we provide, medical nutrition therapy or nutrition counseling to people in the community. And potentially, as I mentioned, do group support, because I do have the room for it now.
Yeah.
So that's where I envision it. We'll see. I mean, things always change, of course, so it depends what other opportunities come up, but I'm just glad we have a home now, a home base that we can all collaborate together here.
Yeah.
So.
No, I love that. I love that. So, one of the ones I haven't told you about this question, but one of the questions I love to ask quite a bit. So as an entrepreneur, we get a lot of people that watch us that are entrepreneurs and everything else that comes with this, right? So as an entrepreneur, what is one piece of advice that you would give to anybody who's looking to start their own business? Maybe it's nutritional, maybe it's just business related. What would that one piece of advice be from you?
Gosh, honestly, I know this sounds cliche, but imperfect movement is better than perfect, standing still. So even if you don't have everything in place, just take that step and do it. Even you'll change course. You can always adjust, and it's okay. It's honestly necessary to make mistakes, but you have to be actionable and take that first step and keep making steps no matter what.
Yeah. No, and that's I see that a lot, actually. That's a very common statement in this podcast that I do here. So imperfect action is better than no action.
Yes.
So,
yes.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for joining me here today. I really do appreciate it. And you guys, thank you so much for watching this video today. If you do enjoy this content, please go and hit that subscribe button. Go and hit that little bell so you get notified of any future content. And please, 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 reach out to these ladies. I mean, again, nutrition, we've hit on this so much here today, but nutrition is such a key part to our daily lives and how we function and how we are, like I said, how we sleep, how we work out, whatever it is, how you feel every single day. And I say, please reach out to these people. I promise you will not be disappointed by taking this step in your journey of getting healthier and prolonging your life a little bit and whatever that looks like. So I cannot stress enough to reach out to them, right? Reach out to them, talk to them, just start that conversation, right? And it doesn't have to be a commitment at this point, just a conversation to see what that next step looks like for you. So please share this video with them, whatever that looks like, and they can start that process for them. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. This is another episode of Local Legends of the Flint Hills, where business meets community. Thank you for watching. Jordan, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
See you guys.